London energy costs in the name of Assembly Member Qureshi.
Okay. Thank you, Murad. You're asking about the huge energy costing, the price increases rather by the big six, and it's a very interesting thing going on in Britain, which is that the gas prices are in fact quite low per unit, and the consumption is very, very high. What we're doing to cut the costs is, of course, to retrofit 99,000. We've already retrofitted 99,000 homes in London, saving householders, saving homeowners about £180 per year, up to about £180 per year. And we continue to try to advise people through Know Your Rights campaigns and everything else about how they can minimise their energy costs and how they can pay their energy bills most efficiently.
I hear what you're saying, Mr. Mayor, but the key word in the question was insulate, and what you've done to help Londoners face the cost of living crisis this winter. You mentioned your own programme of the home energy efficiency, the Renew programme, but it delivered well below its own targets last term. We've had the energy companies reneging on their eco-obligations, particularly in London, and it's clear that they won't be doing anything further on that front if you listen to EDF particularly. And the National Green Deal programme has become a bit of a joke, with only 219 properties getting eco works done nationally. I just want to know, have you done anything to dissuade the energy companies against these crippling price increases and make sure the energy companies undertake their obligations in London in particular, instead of sending light bulbs?
Yes, what we're doing, for instance, with British Gas and other energy companies, we're making sure that they spend their eco funds on helping us to insulate Londoners, and we have a further 60,000 homes in the pipeline and 500 public sector buildings, additionally trying to reduce the energy bills overall. I mentioned right at the beginning of my in my oral update, I pointed out that we've got a programme now with Islington to use to capture excess heat and
but that's
help
TfL.
about,
that's not an energy company.
Help about 500
Mr. Mayor.
homes across the city.
That's not an energy company, with all respects.
Islington's own energy company.
Okay, well that's Islington Council, local authority, not
No,
one of the
sorry,
six
it's
energy
TfL.
companies. You're just going off the point here, Mr. Mayor. Can I just point out another reality on fuel poverty? I mean, the reality is a 1% increase in energy prices nationally pushes 40,000 households into fuel poverty. If you look at the cold home crisis and results from 2011-2012, we had 2,800 access winter deaths in London. Do you have at all a ballpark figure of the number of families in fuel poverty at this present moment?
I can certainly say that, just off the top of my head, I think that there are probably 180,000 elderly people anyway in London who face that problem. It is very acute, and I understand the difficulty people face. I think it was John Major the other day who made this point very, very vividly. There are some families are facing a real crisis. There is no the trouble. These energy companies have been they face very considerable increases in their green responsibilities,
I'm not asking you that
green
question,
taxes,
Mr. Mayor.
and
I'm actually asking what you're doing.
I can tell you what we're doing. We're retrofitting tens of thousands of homes. We're continuing to run very big Know Your Rights campaigns, and we're trying to help Londoners to access the funds they need to get them through the winter. But I in no way underestimate the scale of the problem.
Well, according to figures for 2011 from the ONS, we've got 300,000 households in fuel poverty and that's about 10% of London households. And you can imagine how much that's going to increase now with these crippling increases. I just also want to be clear with the John Major comments, actually. Only this week you were prepared to get out of bed to defend the super rich in your column on the Telegraph, yet you don't seem to be prepared to beat up the energy companies like EDF. Well, you know, EDF have done very well out of the Olympics and all the marketing they got. They operate like a private utility here, and when you go across the channel, they wouldn't dare do the things they do here in the UK, in France.
I'm more than happy to beat up anybody.
I suggest, I haven't finished my question, Mr. Mayor. Well, I suggest you actually support John Major's suggestion of a one-off windfall tax on excess properties and energy companies, because there are families in London choosing between heating and food on the table, and that's the reality for many tens of thousands of households in London. I understand that. This winter.
And certainly, if it was an easy way of doing this, I would. What I don't think is credible is for Labour people to argue that energy companies are now charging too much when they festooned those companies with regulation, when they piled tax upon tax, when they made the market, when they saw a huge reduction in the number of energy suppliers, they now claim to be able to somehow magically to cut the bills. That is not credible. We are in London. We face a shortage of electricity substations. We face a serious shortage of power.
So you're going to support in their heights
we need to keep investing in our energy supply. Otherwise, quite frankly, you can have a quick fix. You can have a quick Wonga-like fix, Murad. You can have a Wonga-like fix, but then the bills will go up in the future. And I think you've got to look at some of the way the energy companies have been regulated. You've got to look at the decisions that were taken to spend vast sums on totally pointless only marginally useful wind farms over 20 years, which is however long Labour were in power for. How long was it? 13 years. 13 years. Too long. You did absolutely nothing to tackle the problems of supply. If you don't have enough supply, you cannot expect the energy to be produced at a reasonable price. And that was the fundamental problem that Labour failed to tackle, because you didn't have the guts. You didn't have the guts to go and build the nuclear power stations 20 years ago that this country needs. You funked the issue year after year, and we are reaping the whirlwind now.
I have a question about energy supply.
Stop the clock.